Welcome to another episode of Couch Catechism. I'm your host, Michael Obeid. Tonight we have a very special presentation and a very special guest. We've been actually waiting for quite some time to be able to bring him on the show. He has graced us with his presence. Tonight, speaking about all things Catholicism, we have straight from Dulwich Hill, we have the Auxiliary Bishop of Sydney, Bishop Richard Umbers. How are you today, Bishop Umbers?
Socially distant handshake.
Don't worry. I'm going to sanitize. I'm going to sanitize afterwards. Okay, just so that there's no contraction of COVID. Make sure that you signed in at the door.
Yeah, they've got the little icon thing.
You put your contact number and everything.
Queue number and all the rest.
We did do a temperature check, but that's on the card.
Actually, we went to what's that place called Ramesh or
Rashes.
Rashes. They actually walk through.
Yeah.
And it's an automatic temperature test like this.
Oh wow!
It's like a metal detector, but you just go through for your temperature.
Well, I went out to dinner with the missus for our anniversary a couple of weeks ago, and we had to go via a hotel to go into a bar for some post dinner drinks, and we got buzz temperature checked, and we had to even walk in with a flu mask.
Wow.
Yeah, to go in, and then it was only when we were sitting down in our booths that we were allowed to take the masks off.
Well, actually, so I wear my mask. I've got liturgical masks.
Oh, liturgical.
I have liturgical masks. So when I proceed in,
yep.
When I'm 1.5 meters from anybody,
yep.
So giving Holy Communion or confirming,
yep.
And then when I go out. So when I take the photo with the bishop after confirmation, I've got this sort of red mask.
Okay.
And gets that's all colour coordinated. And
so has it been a bit? What's it been like with all the restrictions and?
I haven't noticed any difference. Is it life?
Not at all.
No, not for me. Life has continued. Even in lockdown, my place was so busy. It was crazy.
Oh well, because I was going to say, how do we really know you're saying the words of consecration properly if you've got that?
No, it's only not when I'm at the altar. Not when I'm at the altar. No, but life is, at least in my own case, the only difference is there's more Zoom meetings.
A lot of Zoom meetings. Are you enjoying the Zoom meetings?
Enjoy is not a word that I associate with bureaucracy.
Interesting.
It's another way of serving.
It's another way of serving. Yeah. It is a cross. Would you call it a cross?
Life, there are many paths in life.
My marriage is a cross.
Yeah, but no. What I would really want to petition the Holy Father if we can get an indulgence for attending a meeting.
Ooh, 100 days? Do we still go by the days?
I'll put it to him when I get the chance. Anyway. Yeah.
Well, he does have the power. Or doesn't he?
Yeah, well, look, we can ask. We can get an Enchiridion for indulgences and see whether that can make it in there.
Okay, no problem. Well, if you wanted to start a petition, you've got my vote. Okay, awesome. Great. Now, I've got you on the show. We spoke earlier about maybe speaking about a couple of different things, but maybe a bit of a background on yourself. If you just want to let me know, let the audience know, how did it all start for you? Were you always Catholic? I know that you're from...
So I was born into a Catholic family.
Yeah, I heard you're from New Zealand, so my condolences, and I'm sorry about that. But you've come over to the promised land. Yeah. You had to throw that in. You had to throw that in. Yeah. Okay.
No, I was born into it. So I'm the baby.
Yeah.
Of 5 kids.
5 kids. Yeah.
In Spanish, they say "no hay quinto malo."
No.
But that's in reference to the bulls, though. It was the 5th bull is always the one. That,
All right. Okay.
But my parents are practicing Catholics. I was raised as Catholics.
Yep.
I've got a cousin so in New Zealand the Maris priests are big. So I've got a cousin who's a Maris priest.
Yep.
And my uncle, who passed away last year at 94 years of age, he was a Maris priest.
God rest his soul.
So he was a lot of fun.
Okay.
They knew he was sick the day before he died because he'd stopped cracking jokes.
Oh, that's how they
knew something was up.
Okay, and I heard that the Maris brothers, as well as the Christian brothers, they don't mind a drop of wine and a glass of beer here and there.
Well, I think actually there's the Maris fathers certainly they grow some wine, as do the Jesuits too.
Okay,
Seven Hills and all that sort of stuff.
That explains a lot.
Well, it helps fund the mission.
Yeah. But I don't.
But look, back to that. So now my mum was staunch.
Yep.
Staunch. So brother's a priest.
Yep.
Nephew's a priest. She had a simple faith.
Okay.
So she was a smart woman, but with a simple faith. And she basically had 3 things that she taught me.
Yep.
Follow the Pope, Mass on Sunday, no funny business before marriage.
Okay.
That was all I knew about my faith.
All right.
So, but I had those 3 things clear. The rest, and I'd ask questions, and she'd try and give me answers. And if you go on a plane, you trust the pilot. And I was going, well, I don't trust the pilot. I'm not going to go on this plane. And they go, oh, well, so I've got a lot of questions.
Okay.
It was only when I got to university that I started getting answers. So I met a priest of Opus Dei, Father Max Polak. He'd studied at MIT.
Okay.
And he was able to give me books about the faith. So he gave me St. Augustine's Confessions and a book of apologetics, which was called Reasons for Hope. And it was the first time anybody had given me an intellectual presentation of the faith. And I just ate it up.
Wow.
And then at university, I was studying philosophy, political philosophy, the Greeks, different philosophers through the ages. And I was just at the edge of my seat. We had this professor, it was so funny. His name was Professor Beaglehole. And he looked like Professor Beaglehole too. He really did.
What does a Beaglehole look like?
Well, he was in his late 60s. Okay. He was rather pasty and this big white man anyway. But I was 18 years old and just give me. I was just
very intelligent, inspiring.
Well, this guy was he was amazing. And I've been in love with philosophy ever since. Okay. So it's always been a real passion of mine.
So he inspired you with the philosophy.
Yeah. I'm really into it.
And so for those people who probably don't know, part of the title is the fact that you've got a doctorate in philosophy as well, don't you?
From Spain. From
Spain. And you
La Universidad de Navarra.
De Navarra in Spain. And that was how long ago?
20 years ago.
Okay, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And your thesis was on epistemology.
That's right, just in the United States. So it's contemporary epistemology.
Okay, so what is epistemology? Just so that
how do we know things?
How we know things.
Or how do we justify that we know things, as opposed to what's knowledge as opposed to opinion?
Okay.
Or just mere belief or whatever.
And how has that formed part of your faith?
In the sense that you're looking to the rationality of belief.
Yep.
Now, faith is a gift. But in theology and in other areas of life, it's not that you can demonstrate the faith, prove the faith. You can give convincing arguments.
Yep.
But you can certainly show that what I believe is not irrational.
Okay.
So when I talk about humanae vitae, and I say, in a very unpopular way, look, I think the procreative meaning of sex and the unitive meaning of sex cannot be separated from each other.
Yep.
I can at least show you why I think that is rational and why it is rational for me to hold to that idea, even if you strongly disagree with me. Mm-hmm. I'll put arguments to show why I believe, and you can say, well, I would hope a fair-minded person would say, look, see where you're coming from.
Okay.
But that's really important at the time of speaking about sexual morality.
Yep.
I'm not homophobic.
Yep.
It's just that homosexual acts are not life-giving.
Okay.
That's not part of God's plan.
Okay.
In the same way that artificial contraception is not part of God's plan.
Okay.
So I'm not discriminating. I'm saying they're all wrong.
Yep.
If it's not open to life, it's wrong. And you go, but what about this? No, it's wrong. That's the principle.
Okay.
Everything else follows from that.
So would you go and say, would that start with, because I know we're going to probably get into a bit of philosophy, but I can ask you these kinds of questions. When we look at people like, for example, does that come from like Aristotle? When we look at like, you can always see within nature that things they speak ends.
So Aristotle has a teleology.
That's right.
The telos, the purpose for things. And you learn the nature of something, the thusis, from looking at the actions and seeing what is it tending towards, what leads to the good of that particular organism.
Yes.
Now, it's a way of looking at things, but many times in contemporary philosophy, which draws on Aristotle and phenomenology, where you describe, you're looking to be very attentive to a situation, describe what you see, but in such a way that you capture the meaningful essence of what's going on. Yeah, that's phenomenology, which is a big movement of the 20th century and continues today. And it's
Pope John Paul II,
very into that.
He was very into
based on the work of a number of early phenomenologists.
Okay.
I mean, Edmund Husserl is the big name.
The big one.
From that. But although his work itself is based on a fellow by the name of Franz Brentano, who was a priest, but left the priesthood during the First Vatican Council in 1870 because of the definition of papal infallibility. He couldn't hold to that, so he left the priesthood. But he had a seminary training in Aristotle. And through his work, people like Edmund Husserl, who was not a Catholic, although he taught Saint Edith Stein, and was pretty close. Like his problem for conversion was that he just took so long in analysing everything. It would have taken him too long to study all the dogmas.
Okay.
So Edith Stein was a student of Edmund Husserl.
That's
and,
right.
She became Catholic.
Yep.
She was of Jewish background. She was a non-believer.
That's right.
But then she read Saint Teresa of Avila in one night and said, "This is the truth."
Wow.
Converted.
Wow.
Incredible thinker.
Yep.
But she had a big influence on Husserl.
Okay.
Now, another student of Husserl's, Max Scheler,
Yep.
was the one that John Paul II started to develop more in his work on values.
Okay. And before phenomenology, what was the big thing in the church?
Oh, well, I mean, neo-scholasticism.
Neo-scholasticism?
Yeah.
And why were people critical of that, of neo-scholasticism? Why did that start to become seen as very rigid and very dry and very, I don't know, like, I kind of feel as though, like, with some of the modern authors that some wings of the church tend to take a liking to, I find that
How many
there's kind
wings
of
are there? Is it 2 wings?
Well, there's
Is
two.
it 2
Yeah, well,
wings?
you're speaking about 2 wings. There's
Well, the 2 wings, faith and reason.
Well, there's
lead
one
us to the truth.
Well, there's
But anyway,
one wing that seems
Yes.
it seems to be a little bit anti-scholastic. They kind of see it as a little bit archaic.
So if you read the popes,
Yeah.
stick to the popes from Pope Leo the 13th onwards,
yep.
Eterni Patris, and St. Pius X, and John Paul II, Fides et Ratio. But even you read Pope St. Pius X, and where he's talking about the importance of studying Thomas Aquinas.
Yep.
So it's not that the church asks that we do exactly what Aquinas did. It's that as he did it.
Is that called neo-Thomism or just Thomism?
Well, we'll get there.
All right.
But what Thomas did, in the spirit of what Thomas did,
Yep.
he studied everyone. You look at it. He looks at
did.
Maimonides. He looks at all the Arabic philosophers. He you name it, he studied it.
Yep.
But then he brings it into a fantastic synthesis in line with Scripture, in line with the faith. So the compatibility of faith and reason.
It's robust. It's good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that's the way in which Thomas worked. Now,
Yep.
you need to know what Thomas says.
Yep.
But then, okay, let's have a look. And that's what John Paul II does, drawing from a number of sources,
Yep.
bringing that together in harmony. One of the problems of neo-scholasticism, and so I don't like to bandy names around too much because
Okay.
it depends which philosophy you're following. Is it Suarez? Is it...
Conga.
Well, that's a modern thing. I'm thinking of people back from
Suarez,
the 1600s
okay.
kind of stuff. 16th century, 1500s.
Bellarmine.
That time.
Okay.
It depends how things were used, but as you go forward, there's always an interrelationship. So neo-scholasticism, properly so called, is more of like if you're looking 1700s, 1800s.
Yeah.
There is an influence of Immanuel Kant, who's an idealist,
okay.
a rationalist,
Yep.
and that does infiltrate such that the kind of manuals and the way in which things are taught in the seminary
Yep.
starts to dominate. So for simplicity's sake, you bring it all together. Okay, let's give you the cheat notes.
Yep.
People when they're studying a book, they look at Spark Notes on Google, and well, what's that? And so they try to bring things together in that way, but then it becomes very dry.
Okay.
Lifeless, and it just becomes in the end, and as happens unfortunately with some of the older priests, is they just have formulae and they learn 10 definitions. They're not quite sure what they mean, but they just parrot out the 10 of it.
Okay.
That's not philosophy is a living experience. It's in a community. There's back and forth. You look at the dialogues of Plato.
Yep.
You put it all out there, but then the Socratic method. You go, well, what do you really mean by that? And then you tease out, or you try to, some kind of a definition.
Yep.
It's alive.
Okay.
It's in contact with what's going on around.
Okay.
That's what philosophy should be.
Yep.
Now, at a professional level, it does become a bit like the neo-scholastics, whether it be an analytic philosophy or sometimes with the continentals. You end up with, it becomes so abstruse.
Yep.
It's crazy. But that's part of being a discipline. But if you are really into your philosophy, you know that it's not just a study that's out there. It is something that should be informing how I think, how I choose, what my life is about. And that's where it becomes a lot more interesting. And there are many good philosophers who are able to describe contemporary situations, but bring the resources of Aristotle or the insights of St. Thomas to bear on that. Now, as regards the faith, it's very important that we study St. Thomas Aquinas and what he said and what he meant, because we use those terms. The church has drawn from those in the explanation of dogma, in giving a good understanding or a bringing together of what Jesus revealed as it's been reflected upon in the magisterium of the church, and then it's gelled into a very, very specific definition. And there's a lot of work has gone into that back and forth over centuries.
Yes.
So to do away with that language and those definitions is to put yourself at danger of falling right into heresy.
Okay.
Because fathers of the church had to debate these matters, and there's a lot of nuance involved. So it's kind of crazy to just kick the tradition out and think nothing happened in the last 2,000 years.
Yeah.
I mean, the church herself in dogmatic formulations, Fourth Lateran Council, 1215 or whatever, says very particular things. So when you study, and the Catechism mentions this, there are no better words than transubstantiation. It means something very specific.
Yeah.
That the what looks to be bread and wine, the species of bread and wine, changes. The substance is changed. The accidents remain the same, but the substance changes. Well, that's a very different understanding to the meaning changes, which would be transsignification, or trans anything else.
Yeah.
No. We're not Lutherans who think that there's a bit of God and a bit of bread.
Yep.
There's a change of substance. Now, you can get into further argument, and I won't go on about Blessed Duns Scotus and all the rest of it, because then that really gets complicated. But, when you in the creed, we say consubstantial.
Yep.
Of the same being as, these are, we talk about an iota of difference.
Yep.
Well, I mean, the whole thing of homoousios and homoiousios, homoousios of the same substance, or homoiousios like the same substance. Well, that's not the same.
Which is different.
It is different. So it does make an iota of difference. And the fathers of the church were always aware our salvation is on the line, because unless we get it right about who Jesus is, he's true God and true man.
Yep.
We get that wrong, our salvation is now in jeopardy.
Okay.
Because only as man and as God is he able to save us.
Well, you've touched on a couple of things, okay? So let's go with some of the things you've said about how dogma's important, doctrine's important, even when it comes to certain terminology.
Yep.
I hear people, whether within the church or outside of the church, they look at us and they say that we obsess over terminology, over things like transubstantiation.
We always have, because it matters. Words have meanings.
Okay. So what would you say to someone who's critical of the position that we obsess over mortal sin? No, we have to look at it in a more nuanced way. Mortal sin, it seems a little bit too black and white, seems a little bit too rigid.
Oh, look at the tradition of the church. Like, upon where do you say that's rigid? Like, either you're in the grace of God or you're not.
Fundamental option theory.
Yeah, well, that's Veritatis Splendor by John Paul II.
Yep.
It's all laid out very clearly. So if I put that into doubt and I say, do you reckon it's this? Do you reckon it's that? I would look. This is a very, very crude way of putting it. But when you're playing Where's Wally? Yeah. Okay, it's a bit of a puzzle, but you find Wally. Okay, if I have found Wally, I've got a book of Where's Wally, and on page 55 I'm asking, where's Wally? And I go, here he is, right there. Look, we've coloured him out. There's Wally.
Yep.
And then I move on and I say, now I wonder where Wally is. And you go, well, here, right there. There he is. I already showed you. To put those questions about the fundamental option, all the rest of it, it's been answered definitively in Veritatis Splendor by John Paul II. Like, it's all there. So our actions matter.
Yes.
If I am, from the Catechism itself, when you're looking at the conditions for mortal sin, is it grave matter? Is it something serious?
Yep.
Am I fully conscious? Do I know what I'm doing? Have I fully willed this? Do I really want to do this? I'm saying yes to this.
Okay.
Then I've said these are the conditions for a mortal sin.
Yep.
If I was half asleep, I didn't really want it, I was struggling or whatever, well then, okay, maybe there's some sin there, venial sin, but it may not be mortal sin. You've got to judge. I mean, you've got to be careful when people have scruples, etc. But if I am free, if I'm truly free, if I can say this is an act by me, it wasn't just an act of the body, it just didn't happen. I chose this. I could get credit for this and say this is truly, I'm making myself, some of the fathers of the church talk about they say we are our own parents because through our actions we are forming habits that are changing our character.
Absolutely.
But if it's truly me and I am freely involved in this, then to my credit, I have done good things with the help of the Holy Spirit.
Yep.
But also I can commit sin. If I don't believe in sin, it's because I don't believe in freedom. I'm not truly human.
Okay.
So if I believe in the human condition and I am a free agent, I can misuse that. I can be not non-rational, I could be irrational. The animals are not irrational, they're non-rational, but
yeah.
I am irrational. I could have done otherwise.
But I'm acting contrary
if I
to my
could
rational
not
nature.
have done otherwise for whatever psychological or whatever reason, it's not sin. I'm not talking about sin.
Okay.
But if I could have done otherwise, and I know it, well, I've sinned, and it's not rational to do so. Mm-hmm. But I did it. But there you go. That's the
okay.
That's the result. And we've always understood that. And you see, there's plenty of sins. And I think whoever says I'm without sin, you go, okay, that's very interesting. Good person, wonderful.
Yeah.
Can I ask your spouse about that?
Yeah.
Can I ask your kids? Do they think you're sinless?
Do they think the same thing?
I'd like to hear the answers. It'd be really interesting.
Yeah, that's
true.
true.
Because we all suffer from a lack of self-knowledge.
That's true. And sometimes we need people from the outside to kind of look at us and kind of give us a little bit of a critique. And just so that, because we're throwing a couple of big words around, can you just give me an explanation? What's fundamental option theory?
So what it's trying to say is that, like, maybe I have a little bit to drink. Maybe I look at a few things I shouldn't. Maybe I don't pay all the stuff that that's owed. But deep down, I love Jesus.
Yeah.
I love Jesus. Oh, Jesus. But the scripture itself says, you're in many different places. Whoever says they love God and hate their brother, they're a liar.
Yeah.
How can you, if you don't love the brother that you can see, how can you say you love the God you don't?
Absolutely.
Or their hearts, Jesus himself talks in referring to what's said in the Old Testament. Their lips have me on their name, but their hearts are far from me.
Absolutely.
So I show who I am, I show what I do through my actions. And in this case, if it's a freely chosen or the rest of it, I'm telling you what, you imagine trying to say to your spouse, look, those other girls, they don't matter. No, it's you I love.
I only love you. Yeah.
I love you. That was nothing. It didn't mean a thing. Excuse me. Fundamental option theory. You'll know all about it.
I'll give you a fundamental option theory.
Pretty much, yes.
But God's merciful.
He is.
He's loving.
All sin can be forgiven.
Yeah.
Every sin can be forgiven, but there's an unforgivable sin.
What is that?
Not to want to be forgiven.
Not to want to be forgiven.
So
not to
as
think
a priest,
that you need forgiving.
As a priest, when you start out, you're pretty hardcore, I have to say, normally. You're pretty rough. And the younger ones especially, come on, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Look, as you get older...
What?
Okay.
You lose the fighting spirit?
No, it's just that you just realize, look, we're all sinners. We're all sinners. We could strive for sanctity.
Okay.
But look, you become the human condition, and people are trying, but it gets to the point where honestly, if someone said one Hail Mary freely, moved by grace, I would be so impressed.
Okay.
And you realise that God can work with the smallest thing, but it's got to be there. Yeah. It can be really teeny tiny. Yeah. But he can work with that. But if it's a flat out no, if there's a hardness of heart, if there's a thing, I've done nothing wrong, I am blameless, and you're going, God wants to forgive, wants to be merciful, but he does respect our freedom. We have the fundamental option to choose hell. That's true. If you, with all your life, you're saying, I do not want God. Okay, well then you don't get God. Okay. It's an awful, awful reality, and please God, it's rare and all the rest. But God's grace is there all the time, and it's amazing the stories that you will hear about how to help. But you got to respect the thing that's the mystery of freedom. Okay, and hell is real, and it's a dogmatic belief of the church. Yep, Jesus teaches it. I mean, it's a reality. We're going to be afraid. It's good to be afraid of things that we should be afraid of. We should fear hell. And that's a sufficient supernatural reason to go to confession. Yeah. The fires of hell, that's a good reason to be afraid of that. Okay. Is it the best reason? It's a good one. It's a good one. It's a sufficient one. We do things for love. When you love the saints, they love and they want to, they want to be with God and all the rest. hey, awesome, that's what we aim for.
Yep.
But, look, I'm going to, contrition can also be just...
Yeah.
the beginnings of contrition can be like, oh, no, I don't want that.
Okay. Because we can develop that, I guess, as people, they start...
What's the beginning of wisdom?
Fear of God. Yeah.
Now, fear to offend him could be fear of... I don't want to let my father down. I don't want to disappoint my parents.
Like
so
a filial
fear.
Yeah, not a servile fear.
Yeah, but but wait till your father gets home. Sometimes
yeah.
No, but there is an aspect to that. The final judgment, the parousia, the second coming. But in a sense, but it's about justice. Truth of God is merciful, absolutely.
Yeah.
That we live with that. We depend on that mercy. Yeah. But we've also got to make on our own part some kind of an inclination towards trying. I mean, again, I go to confession. Okay, I'm sorry for what I've done. I won't sin again. I remember once. Here
you go.
I was at a mass years ago.
Yeah. And
we had this mass on. There were different families available. We were going to have a barbecue picnic afterwards.
Yeah.
It was a great day. And anyway, this little kid, I don't know how old he was, like 4 or 5 years old, whatever it was. I don't know what he did. But all I could hear him was screaming, going, "I won't do it again. I won't do it again." Anyway, he was in big trouble and he didn't get to go to the barbecue afterwards. He was, he got grounded. Right. And I asked the dad sometime, I said, what did he do? He said, he won't do it again. I still don't know what it was, but he won't be doing that again.
All right. So there was that holy fear, that servile fear.
Guess.
Yeah. And there wasn't any red shakush mark on the back of his neck.
All good. But he said he won't be doing that again. Whatever that was. Yeah.
Now, our culture here within Australia, we're a little bit anti-authority.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it can be a good thing.
Is it a good thing?
Can be.
Explain how.
Well, you look at John Paul II in Poland when you had the communist authorities and they said no church. Yep. And so what did they do? They went out into the snow and they had mass in the snow. And you're the church, and they pretended that there were walls around, and they had mass anyway.
Well, I heard something even more inspiring, like just as inspiring as that. Yeah. But the Communist Party in Poland, they forbade images. So Pope John Paul II, when he was the Bishop of Krakow, he held up a frame.
Yes.
And all the people venerated the frame, and they all knew that.
Yes.
That
what it represented.
Our Lady of Czestochowa, the Black Madonna,
yes.
And I was like, wow.
Yeah. Well, it can be a good thing. It depends how it's directed.
Yeah. But on the other end, though, why do you think within Australia, especially, or maybe I don't know, within like Western tradition, we seem to be a little bit anti-authority, anti-hierarchy, anti-clergy.
Some of it, look, I mean, sometimes, there's an historical aspect to that of the convict past, and I mean, I think that may be part of it. But this day and age, it's like folklore.
Okay, it's been 300 years.
Yeah, so, sometimes it's just look. We can all be a bit insecure, and you think you're better than me, and like when we complain about something, when we criticize, and so I have to be careful because I'm complaining and criticizing. Yeah. But when we do that, it says more about us than the people we're criticizing.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's often happens, like as a priest, and not so much today, but in the past it's happened. Mm-hmm. In general, going around, I dress as a priest.
Yep.
And wherever I am, even in Paddington, I'll be there having a coffee, and someone will come up to me, as I often have this, Father, thank you so much. Thank you for dressing as a priest.
Oh, wow.
I always get compliments for dressing as a priest.
Okay.
Wherever I am, but thank you, Father. Now, maybe it's because I'm a big guy. People get a little bit, so I don't get told off. I don't have many people sort of have a go at me.
Okay.
But generally, almost always, it's thank you, Father.
Okay.
The only people that I get pushback from?
People within the pews?
Priests.
Priests? What do you mean?
They'll say, do you think you're better than me?
Why? How?
Well, that's the insecurity.
Okay.
No, not today. When I was first ordained,
when you were
many years ago,
okay,
there was still a bit of that kind of a hang-up.
That anti-clericalism?
Well, no, not so much, but it's just like they'd taken the option not to dress as priests, and they thought that was the future.
Okay.
And then they could see these young guys coming forward dressed in black, and it was kind of like a slap in the face.
Against what?
What they had stood for.
Okay. Were they revolting against something?
Well, maybe.
Or were they following a current, like some sort of a trend?
At that time, yeah.
Yeah?
Like, to give you an example, so in the Archdiocese of Sydney, when I first started out, many years ago, you'd have a clergy gathering, and the only priests, there'd be one or two priests dressed in black.
Okay.
And it was kind of frowned upon to be dressed like this. You go to a clergy gathering now in the Archdiocese, it's just a sea of black.
Okay.
All the young guys dressed in black.
Are they all better than each other?
We are all sinners. We are all sinners.
Yeah.
But it's not a thing. It's just like, you're a priest. You wear clerical attire, and it's not a big deal.
But is there something within like canon law or that speaks
canon
about...
law says that we should be dressed as priests.
It's
according to the customs of the country. Yeah.
So then, where did this idea? Where was this Where did this come out? What was it?
There was a kind of see. I mean, you have the documents themselves of the Second Vatican Council.
Yes.
I've read them several times. I want to read them all again. They're fantastic. They were voted on. Awesome. Great.
Yep.
It's the spirit. What used to be, this is old hat, but the spirit of Vatican II, where they'd say, look, if in the past we thought priests were good, well, now we're going to say we're all the same, And so, to give you an example,
priesthood of all believers. That kind of a mentality?
Yeah, but there is there is a common priesthood according to baptism.
That's right, yeah.
But it's never it's never kind of like to denigrate something else. So
to the detriment of the...
When you say that someone who is a religious and they become a brother or a sister or something like that, I think that's fantastic. That's awesome. Now, only an insecure person would say, well, what does that mean for me as a lay person? How dare you?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
I think it's awesome if they're being called that way.
Yeah.
Great. Now, if you're called to that thing and you're good on you, strength of your arm. Yeah. Awesome. Just because one person does well doesn't mean that, it's not a win-lose situation.
Yeah, that's
it
right.
should never be seen that way. And it's a weird thing that people do. But unfortunately, because we're sinners, and look, in the future we'll have other sins, and we'll have other crazy things that we're on about. And,
absolutely.
Maybe I could go on with examples, but
let's follow through with that. So, like for example, this Spirit of Vatican II, for example, was there a particular document, for example, that spoke about how? Because I just remember reading statistics. This was after like my conversion to the faith, because I wasn't always a practicing Catholic myself. And I just noticed that after around the 70s, after the documents came out, after the Spirit, you just saw massive declines in ordinations and calls to the religious life. It was almost as though what was being taught, not from the council itself, but from people reading them, was that, everybody is somehow, like God calls everybody to be saved. God has a plan of salvation for everybody, and somehow it's possible. But when we say possible, I think they interpreted the word possible for more than probable, more than likely, everyone's going to heaven. Don't worry about missions. Don't worry about, you know what I mean? So
there's a little bit of, look, there's a bit of Ranierian theology in the mission side of, anonymous Christians.
Elaborate.
I think there's always complex phenomena, and it'd take a lot of research to say it's this or it's that. I mean, drop off in church attendance, you could probably trace that back to prior to Vatican II.
Sexual revolution?
That coincided during the 1960s, but these things don't fall out of the sky.
Okay.
Don't forget, so look, at the moment, we're looking at great scandals in the church, different cardinals doing really bad things, have been stripped of their cardinalate, and, whether it be in sex or money or these sorts of things. But they were made cardinals earlier.
That's true.
These are problems that have we learn about them now, but they were a long time coming.
Yeah.
And in the church too, you had bad teaching, especially in the seminaries, in the education faculties, the teaching of new teachers, all the rest of it. Modernists had taken control.
Okay.
But they had been taught themselves in the 1950s and the 1940s. Pope St. Pius X is a wonderful encyclical Pascendi on modernism and exploring what that looks like. He's dealing with the issue back in the early 1900s. Yeah. So it's not like these things suddenly came out of nowhere. They've got a long trajectory, and in many ways, Vatican II is trying to arrest some of these issues, and it does a fantastic job in updating and putting that forward.
Yep.
It's how these things ended up being applied. And you can see that, the bishops may well have in mind one thing, but then the people who go, oh, you said this, there's all the skullduggery that takes place at the committee level, and how they actually apply that. I mean, I know I have experience where, unfortunately, there's a whole discipline of the way that committees work, and I probably need to read more upon, committees as such. But what will happen sometimes is they'll have you on one committee.
Yeah.
But then they'll try and have as little transparency as possible, because that gives, in the shadows, they can do all sorts of things. So there's a committee there, then there's some other committees there, and then they get down to the people who are doing the work. So at this level, they'll say to you, well, Michael, thank you very much. Hear what you're saying. You would like for there to be lots of incense at the Mass. Very good. Then they talk about it at these other levels, and then by the comes time to talk to the seminarians, they say, now, Michael has said he wants no incense. It's going to be completely free of incense. And they're going, I always thought Michael was a guy who liked a bit of the thurible. And all that, but, oh, well, Michael says that's what he wants,
How does it get lost along the way? What happens?
Duplicity.
Okay.
Yeah, people tell lies. They're porcupines.
Wow.
Sinners.
Agendas.
Sinners.
Yeah.
We're sinful. There is. Did you know that there is sin?
It's a surprise.
There is sin. Yeah. So we need to pray.
Pray.
Repent.
Yeah.
We need to do penance.
Yeah.
We need to do all these things, maybe attend more meetings as penance.
Yeah.
But but that's the thing.
But when does it come time for you to get the crozier and start whacking with it? Does it ever happen or no? Are you allowed?
In today's world?
No?
In today's world?
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that. As a father in a family can say, now, this is the way it's going to be, and this is what we're going to do. Well, good luck to him.
Okay.
You've got to win the wine. You've got to win the children. You've got to win there's this carrot and stick. There's the whole thing. Any workplace, anywhere, it's the same. We're all human beings.
Yeah.
And so you've got to be clear with direction. And then hopefully, if you're clear with your direction, then people will know that, if you've said very clearly and everyone knows incense is a good thing.
Yes.
When at the time I go, but the incense, he doesn't like the incense. I go, no, hang on, it says here, like he said here, look, he wants the incense. No, I'm going to contact Michael and ask him, hey, did you really say that you didn't want? No, who said that? That's part of the way in which, you've got to live oversight.
Yeah.
And that's where to be a bishop, an episcopos,
Yep.
is to exercise that kind. And there's an oversight that, look, it's been there since the beginning. St. Paul writing as a bishop to the early communities. And the Corinthians are fighting with each other, and I'm for Paul, and I'm for Apollos,
They got their own issues there.
It's human beings. We're just sinful.
Yeah.
So I keep talking about sin, but it's just we're sinners. We've got to
that's the denominator. That's the underlying denominator.
Ask for God for grace all the time. And we need grace. Absolutely.
And speaking of that, though, does that happen a lot, though? Like where messages get lost along the way,
sin,
strong beliefs.
Sin happens.
Sin happens, yeah?
We're really sinful. But
are there some maybe some suggestions, some good pastoral, some approaches that you would take?
Holiness.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's anything else. Live charity, love people, try and love.
Does it start from the top though, or does it start from?
Starts all of us.
Everywhere. Okay.
We've got to love. We have to try to love and love with all ourselves, and really pray and ask the saints and turn to Jesus and pray the rosary.
But does that mean that we don't talk about the bad stuff to love? Is that what it means?
Well, you can correct.
Yeah.
But lovingly.
Lovingly.
Well, yeah, but love doesn't mean love is, as you know. Pope Benedict wrote about the different kinds of love, and there's a filial love, and there's a love of brothers, and but if you love, you'll correct. A mum who really, really loves says things to her kid. I don't want you doing this. And they don't say it because, who are you? It's because I really care.
Yeah.
And if you're a good friend or you're a family member, you say things because I can't hold it within. I've got to tell you.
Yeah.
I have to tell you this. It's for you. And then they go, no, I really love you. That's why I'm saying it.
Okay.
But if you've shown deeds of love, if you've shown that you are really, truly a brother, people will listen. But if it's simply a question of, I've got this big log in my eye and I'm trying to pick out the little, toothpick in your own sort of thing, well then, no, that's just being a troll.
Okay. And so these messages shouldn't just be told from the pulpit. There should be relationship. There should be friendships, there should be...
Yeah, it comes spontaneously. You know,
Okay.
when you are a friend, a
Yep.
brother, when you love, when you care, when you go out of your way,
Yep.
you want what's best for the other person.
That's what it's about.
And it just comes naturally. You know, look, if you're going to be sucked in by some scam,
Yep.
I'm going to point it out to you if I care. If I don't care, like, up
Yeah.
to you. You know, you click on the link, see if I care. But he said I was going to inherit all this. You know, like, oh, go ahead. No, but you talk to your grandparents. Like, don't click on that. You know, it's bad for you.
Yeah. But what about that approach where, like, I'm kind of staying on the same topic here, but what about that approach where, yeah, you know what, be their friend, show the love, but if they're not into Jesus, if they're not into religion, or if, you know what I mean, if they've got this kind of like they've got their own faith, don't try to evangelize to them. Don't try to Bible bash them.
No, but the issue there is that you've got to be yourself.
Yep.
If you love Jesus,
Yep.
if you're trying to do all these things, as if I'd keep quiet about it.
Okay.
I'm not preaching.
Yep.
I'm just talking about my life.
Okay.
How do I see it? Well, look, the way I see it would be this. You know,
Yep.
I went to church. Look, you know, there's a problem here. I'll pray. Okay, you know, you don't have to say too much, but they'll know who you are. Okay. And the time will come, they'll ask questions, or you'll say things. You're not shoving it down their throat, but you're just living who you are. Okay. I mean, you have some religious items in your home. Why not? Yeah. It's who I am. I like to look at them. You got a problem? Don't come to my home. You know, like
that's true.
But I'm making a big deal of it. It's just who I am.
Yeah, because like, what would you say though to that kind of like that secular kind of an outlook, or that kind of, because I feel like it's almost as though the faith has kind of been tinged with that kind of secular. If you talk about Jesus, you might offend their sensibilities. You know,
if I talk about all sorts of contemporary issues from a secular point of view, I might offend. True. It's what I believe. Like, you know, but we should be mature enough to understand that you can rationally disagree. Yeah. And doesn't mean I think the less of you. Yeah. I just try to understand. You know, sit down. Tell me. I don't quite get why you think these things. Okay. I'm going to listen. Okay. Okay. Well, and then we can agree to disagree. Yep. That's living in a pluralist society. Yep. But deep down, you know, but this is what gives me life, meaning. This is how I see the world. Yeah. As if I could somehow, look, in these environments I wear this hat, and in those environments I wear this other hat. No, I mean, you can be prudent at times. You can, like many in today's world, you're at a meeting. Yep. And you see, who are the two people in the room that are really quiet? And you go, they're the conservatives.
Why does it work like that?
Because they're going to be afraid.
To say anything that might offend somebody.
Yeah, they're afraid. So but you should seek them out and talk afterwards, because they'll be the ones who think otherwise.
But is that reactionary though? Is that a reaction because maybe they started off the opposite?
It's probably more recognition of what things are like in the workplace today. Okay. Because you can get into big trouble pretty quickly.
Are you saying in the Catholic workplace?
Anywhere.
Okay. Yeah, I've got into trouble a couple of times. Yeah.
Anywhere. So you've got to be, but there's prudence. I mean, there is a certain practical wisdom required in any situation. Okay. It's not like, again, there's a time and place. There's a time for dying, time for living, time for planting, time for uprooting. You know, you got to know your times, but it doesn't mean being insecure. It doesn't mean saying, you know, and certainly, like certainly as a bishop, I'll be in situations where people will say things that are morally wrong or heretical or whatever in front of me, and I'll just say straight up, no, you're wrong. But that's fine. We'll continue having dinner and all the rest. It's very nice. You know, you've been polite and everything. So, no, that's not the teaching of the church. No, there's a dogmatic definition on that. Yep. But pass the salt, please. Okay. No. Okay, well, it's up front. Okay.
Do we obsess over abortion?
Do we obsess? I don't know how you could obsess about it, because it's the killing of an innocent human being. Okay. There are some things we should be angry about. There are some things we should get upset about. Things that are worth being upset about. And killing innocent people is something we should be really upset about. Now, how that is shown, like obviously, a poor mum who's in distress. I mean, many times women will find that their boyfriend is telling them to have an abortion. Their parents are telling them to have abortion. Their friends are telling them to have abortion. Their workplace, where they study, it's all set up in such a way, you know, you're going to ruin your life, you're going to do this. We are called to give support. We're there to really, look, I know some mums who are just unbelievable. They open up their homes to these women. And they spend 1 or 2 years living with them. looking after the kids. That's going.
That's crazy.
Way beyond.
That's amazing.
But that's how much they love. They're so crazy love to that extent.
What a great example.
But to give genuine support, genuine options. We support this, we support that. Why don't we support women having a child?
Yeah.
What are the things that they practically need? Let's do that. Affirm them in the courage to make the choice to say yes.
Okay.
It's a very positive way of putting it.
Yep.
But in our society, it's how we treat the least, the most vulnerable. That shows who we are.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, if everything's about convenience, well, what happens when you get old, when you get sick, when you get ugly?
Who's going to look after you? Yeah.
And we do a really bad job of that in our society. That's where the West suffers so much. And we see that during COVID and everything, where you don't give sufficient attention to the elderly. We don't see them as Jesus Christ.
Yep.
Instead, they're a burden,
Yep.
and it's the least sign of trouble. I'm off. Well, see you later. And there's elder abuse, all manner of problems.
Yeah.
Because how do we see another human being? Not because they're pretty or rich, but because they are in the image and likeness of God. Now that matters, and it matters greatly, and it's shown by how we deal with life from conception. The Catechism teaches, you must treat the embryo as if it's a human person from the start.
Yes.
Abortion is always and everywhere wrong. Always has been, always will be. You know that meme with the guy with the spaceman? Always has been. But it's.
Maybe we'll get to
the memes later. Yeah. But the right to life comes first, because without that right, you can't have any of the others.
Okay.
It's always been at the forefront.
Okay.
And how I see the world, how I view others, is tied up right there. This is like a litmus test.
Okay. And so, what about people within the church that say, come on, you talk about it too much. We talk about it too much. Get over it. There's other sins that we should be worried about that are just as important, like capital punishment, torture, racial inequality, social justice issues, immigration. So, what do you say to that?
So it's difficult to draw sort of hierarchies. Not that it can't be done, but who's been most sinful, or who's been most? Well, they're all wrong. Yeah. But when you're going to direct your attention to things, it's about what's underlying this. Again, respecting God, respecting God's law, and respecting with the right to life upon which all these other rights depend. Yeah. I mean, torture, intrinsically wrong. Very, very bad. Guantanamo Bay, glad that it got shut down. Mm-hmm. But I don't know in Australia they get that much waterboarding. Maybe it happens as some dark CIA cell, stuck somewhere or whatever. Probably not at the forefront of the things that we have to face in daily challenge.
It happens on my mate's balcony. He looked it up on YouTube, and then he tried to waterboard his mate after a barbecue and a couple of drinks. So if he's watching, he knows who he's talking about.
Yeah. Bad, very bad.
But the Geneva Convention apparently says that you shouldn't be doing that sort of stuff. So
but it's not. It's not at the forefront. But you look at the number of abortions that take place in New South Wales alone. Yeah. This is an issue that we all have to face. Yes. Racism, wrong, bad, intrinsically wrong. Change that. Mm-hmm. And that can lead to systemic oppression, etc. But that it could lead to murder, perhaps. And there's cases in the United States and everything. Look, I'm not an American, so I can't talk to that situation. But in Australia, well, there's instances where you could have racial profiling, or people could be discriminated against, and that may well lead to, well, look, okay, we should be upset about that, and we've got to fight for justice. Uh-huh. But again, what are the numbers that we're looking at? Probably in some cases, in Aboriginal settlements and everything, it can be quite high. Yep. And we need to. The church has always been at the forefront of speaking for the first people in this land, and John Paul II had really beautiful things to say. So it's many times the church is and it's not like what's either this or it's that. No, but everyone faces, because sexuality is so important, and because it affects everyone in a very real way. Uh-huh. Well, look, taking an innocent human life, the whole thing, sin of abortion, the crime of abortion, which it should be, is a much more practical issue. In everyday life. Like, again, these other things, it's not that we don't work towards it, we don't preach about it. The Catechism is clear on this. Yes. But when we choose what things do we talk about,
Yeah.
this is at the heart of recognizing that dignity that you see in all of these other people, the reason why we treat others as brothers and sisters under God our Father,
Yep.
that you're hitting at the very heart of it when you go into abortion.
Okay.
You know, do I really see others as made in the image and likeness of God? There are other instances where, you know, I can see you, talk with you, all the rest of it. Yeah. But here, you know, do I not recognize it there? Then there may be some secular human reasons why I do these other things. Fine.
Yeah.
But it's there. It's, you know, here is where I am showing, no, I really believe that this is the image and likeness of God.
Okay.
And I want to live in a society upon which that respect for each and every human life is given in that way. In the same way when we're facing abortion, euthanasia, you know, at the end of life, when people are their most fragile and vulnerable, and am I giving them the love and the care that they have as seeing Jesus in that person?
Yep.
What a difference that makes.
Absolutely.
To how people feel and their fragility. So I don't know, we can never obsess about fundamental values.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know, like when I speak against racism, I'm speaking out because that person too is a brother or sister in Christ, or potentially.
Yep.
You know, I mean, it's the same principle at work, applied now to someone who's grown.
Yeah. What about, there's this trend within a part of the church where people, and I think it's obviously based on secular indoctrination, where you become the foundation upon which your experiences will tell you how to see the world, and you will make truth. There's no more objective truth. Truth is just now a subjective stance. It's the lens by which you determine your own experiences.
Yeah, so that kind of interprets like a way where everything becomes perspective. It's all a matter of perspective. Look, the first thing I would say, as with many of these sorts of ideologies, is that is self-referentially incoherent.
Why?
If you're saying, is that situation you're describing, is that objectively true, or is that just your perspective?
That's my perspective.
Then I can treat it with a grain of salt.
Okay. So it's, makes sense. Yeah. So it's not objective. Yeah.
So why should I listen to you?
Absolutely.
That's your truth.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to talk about truth. So now we're going to let's straight up. So you've damned yourself with what you've said.
Yeah.
So there's got to be some other way of approaching this. Do we view the world through our own eyes and through our experiences? Yeah, that's what it is to live. That's the human story and everything. But none of us likes to be lied to.
Yeah.
And if you're saying, Trump was lying, fact check, all this sort of stuff, you go, okay, because you recognize that there are objective states of reality and my words either conform to that or they don't.
Yep.
So we're using truth all the time. We you can't live without truth. Freedom needs the truth. Yeah. Otherwise, in a web of lies, it's all about power. And I'll spin to you what I want you to believe to manipulate you.
Yeah.
Because in the end, what's truth anyway? It's whatever I can get you to do. Yeah. Whoever has the best power of rhetoric has the most ability to get what they want, their agenda. But an appreciation that there is a truth above us.
Yeah.
Even if I want something else, I have to curtail my activity in the pursuit of a greater law by which I am bound in the recognition of moral law. Maybe I don't, but I have to, this is the truth. Yeah. And so I need to recognize the truth of your dignity as a human being.
Yeah.
Not, well, look, today I choose to, my perspective is that you're okay, but maybe tomorrow my perspective, you're not okay, you're the other. And away with you. Why not? Who's to say? So if you say, well, it's about the will of the people, well, what if the will of the people in China is to torture, persecute, commit genocide with the Uyghur people? Is that okay? Because the people have decided
if we determine
that particular majority has been against that minority. Is that right? Can I get the Falun Gong people and take their organs and give them to someone else, or prisoners and experiment on them, or do these things? Well, it's legal, or the government has decided, or the people have. No, we speak out for human rights.
Absolutely.
Can I waterboard those horrible terrorists or do all these? Well, I'd say, well, no, they maybe did bad things, but no, there's a dignity there that they, even though they don't want it, and I think that it's, they're terrible, I am bound by the moral truth to respect that person.
Yeah, because I think people, they categorize. They have categories, they determine who they like based upon their own certain criteria. But I don't even think they stop to realize and think, hey, the criteria that I've set, the standard I've set has to be based upon some sort of objective reality or objective standard. I hate Trump because he lied about X, or because he speaks bad about women.
We are truth-seeking beings.
Yeah.
And thanks be to God, we have this faculty of intelligence.
Yeah.
And we seek truth. There's a Spanish poet, Antonio Machado.
Okay.
And maybe you know his poem about, tu verdad. No, la verdad. Y vamos nosotros juntos, a buscarlo.
Together we will go to seek it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, this whole thing of mi verdad, tu verdad. No,
okay.
La verdad.
La verdad. The truth.
Yeah. And that's what that's what universities are for.
That's what we strive for, yeah.
Yeah, as a community of inquiry to gain the truth. Now, we can disagree about things, we argue about it, but there are things we can know. 2 + 2 is 4.
Yeah.
2 + 2 is 4.
Yeah.
There's no way around that.
Yeah.
However I might try to dress it up. Faith and reason go together. And if my faith is against reason, it's fideism. It's a defect of the faith. Just as you can have idolatry, you can go to superstition. Or fideism. You can have agnosticism and atheism on one side, but then you're believing in all sorts of rubbish on the other. No, I mean, you can have a very hard head when it comes to matters of the heart, and that's what theology is about and training. And because there's an underlying unity of the mysteries of faith, they're all a reflection of God, who is the truth, the good being itself. But Jesus says, "I am the way, the truth, and the life." I love it when we say the Gloria at Mass, because everyone's sort of there and they all sing the Gloria and do this. But do they realize what they're saying? You alone are the Holy One. You alone are the Lord. You alone are the Most High Jesus Christ. You alone. Yeah. Not others. You. And there's an exclusivity in that.
Yeah.
If you read Dominus Jesus from the year 2000, wonderful exposition of the faith, why the Catholic Church is right.
Yep.
Why the Orthodox are churches, and why others, because they don't have the Eucharist, they're an assembly of people. There are brothers and sisters in Christ and everything, but it's the Eucharist that makes the church, and it's Jesus who is the way.
Yeah.
That's the difference that we have. Jesus, not just someone else. Who do you say that I am? Mm-hmm. You are the Son of the living God.
Yep.
It's the second person of the Blessed Trinity here, not just somebody else. Okay. Guy down the road, nice guy.
Yeah.
It makes all the difference in the world to have God who was made man. The Word became flesh.
Yep.
That has to matter in how we approach and live our lives.
But what about the objection that there's an objection from an intellectual arm of the church whereby they say, yeah, but if you have a look at the meta-narrative, the historicity of the gospel.
Sure.
Different cultures, they absorb these truths into their cultures, and we have to respect those. And so maybe the biblical truths, they're not. They don't take they don't take to particular cultures the way they do to others. We have to kind of change the story to make it suit modern man's ears.
You can do that. That's fine. Jesus does that with his parables.
Yeah.
He draws from the world of work.
Yep.
But he's speaking about truths of heaven, and sure, we can. A good preacher will know how to draw what is old and new.
Yes.
From the storehouse to unpack things.
Okay.
And the faith is enculturated. There's always a relationship, but the faith also draws a culture in its ways to change.
Yeah.
So where you have slavery, sometimes in the West it's taken a long time, but it was in the end Christians who said no to slavery for religious reasons, with William Wilberforce and others. In the same way, the dignity of women. Roman society, the paterfamilias, had power of life and death over his family, all these things, and yet you had these young girls, 12 years old, defying their fathers to say, I am a Christian, and giving their lives as mine. We celebrate them in the liturgy.
Yeah.
Now, that was radical. Do you want feminism? Look at these 12-year-olds saying, no, I choose Jesus Christ. I don't care what you say, because he's the truth.
Yeah.
So that really upset the apple cart. The early Christians were against abortion.
Yes.
And abortion was being practiced everywhere. You go to see some of these Roman towns. I don't know whether it was, if you go to Pompeii, and you see, my goodness, the way that they lived, and there were all sorts of there was slavery, there were gladiators, they had houses of prostitutes everywhere. And then from what I can tell, the remains of the aborted babies, all these things. But the Didache, the teaching of the 12 apostles, there was an early work, not of the 12, it's referred to the 12 apostles. It's very explicit about saying why abortion is wrong.
Yeah.
Absolutely not, and infanticide, no way. So this is countercultural. The early Christians were countercultural in many ways. When St. Francis Xavier went to Japan and he had to speak to the shogun, and he go, well, tell me about it. And he was talking about the 10 Commandments. Well, when he got to the commandment about not to commit adultery, he got kicked out. Who do you think you are? Oh, yeah. But the guy kept going, and and he won people over to the faith. So there are aspects of where cultures can be sinful, and the gospel helps to purify that culture.
Yeah.
But the Jesus of Nazareth, born of the Virgin Mary, born under the law, is how do we know who this Jesus of Nazareth is? Well, through the church, through our collective memory in the scriptures and the witness of the apostles, in the liturgy, where our collective memory is lived out in a praxis. Only in and through the church do you get to know who Jesus is, because the Spirit is with us, and the Spirit gives us these charisms, especially that of the Holy Father, to be that touchstone of unity and of orthodoxy for understanding. Did Jesus say this or not? Did Jesus mean this or not? And that's the whole history of the church. Yeah. Through these difficulties, through understanding that, to say yes. Now that it takes different cultural expressions. Fine, you want to wear this, you want to wear that, you want to put this, you want to do that. But so long as it's actually saying the same thing, the truth that Jesus Christ has passed on to us, and the deposit of faith. Yeah. And we as bishops are especially called to preserve the deposit of faith. The church is the touchstone of the truth. I mean, that's from the New Testament.
Yes, the pillar and bulwark of the truth.
Yeah, so I mean, in that sense, it's not like, well, you have your Jesus and I have mine. No, there's only one Jesus of Nazareth. Yeah. How we access that, how we understand it. I mean, there's different cultures, but even when you read Pope Benedict on these things, I mean, there's a certain providence of God that the world into which Jesus preached, which spoke Greek and was ruled by the Roman Empire, it provided a certain, this is the fullness of time. Yeah. And the philosophical terms that were being used, the fathers of the church took those, purified them. Yep. And we've got to respect that providence. There's no sort of going back and pretending those things didn't exist. Okay. There are, the faith has been enculturated at the start amongst Second Temple Jews, taken to Rome, spread throughout the Roman Empire. That's part of God's providence that we need to respect.
Now, this tradition, though, that has been passed on that we need to faithfully preserve. Yeah. Are there people that don't like it? Just do away with it. Let's just get with the times. Like, we don't need the smells and bells. We don't need the Latin. We don't need the chant.
Well, you can get with people who generally say get with the times tend to be pretty out of touch.
In what way? What do you mean?
Well, generally, which times? And then, it's back into the 70s and blown with the wind and all that sort of stuff. So, I mean, I grew up with all of that, right? Yeah. But it's simply, we can all of us, we can get a little bit lost in the concepts in our own head and not see what's actually in front of us. And that's why phenomenology is good.
Are we trapped in a time machine? Are we trapped? Are they trapped?
All of us can be, one way or another. We all live in different little worlds. It depends how, do you ever break out of your world to look at things that aren't what you expected them to be? Okay. And I think, if you get caught in a particular circle of friends, you're in for a shock when you actually listen to what people have to say. I mean, even millennials complain about the Zoomers. Yeah. Kids these days.
Back in my day, everyone's saying back in,
We always do. Like, I loved when I'm with little 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds, when I said, do you remember when you were little? I think, oh, yes. You're only 8, you're only 9. What are you talking about? But Anyway.
What do we preserve? What do we keep? What do we throw away? What's important?
That's the history of the church.
What do we? Yeah.
But that's scholarship, you know, and you know the good fish, the bad fish, you keep other goods. St. Paul, test all things, hold on to what is good. But we've got plenty that is good. So I think if you go back to John Paul II, Fides et Ratio, and that helps, you know, in the search. That's talking about an environment where you have skepticism. And sometimes we live in an environment of cheap skepticism. Everyone's a conspiracy theorist, but that's lack of thinking things through.
Yeah.
There are definite gains in knowledge. You know, the principle of non-contradiction. A thing cannot be and be at the same time in the same sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a principle of reason, but yeah, I think we've learned something with that.
Yeah.
You know, you can go forward. You know that. Basic maxims, you know, you can never do evil that good may come of it, or things like that. I mean, that's a moral truth.
Yep.
We hold to that, you know. And over time, with the help of the Holy Spirit, the magisterium of the church, as charisms, you know, there are certain moral truths that have been enunciated and they hold good. The Ten Commandments are always relevant because they're based on human nature, and human nature remains the same.
Yeah.
We're not cyborgs.
Yeah.
And even if we did try and stick a few things into us, you know, we're still human beings.
Yeah.
Made in the image and likeness of God. Jesus is the fullness. He reveals to us, and this is Gaudium et Spes, this key document in the Second Vatican Council. Yeah. He reveals to us who we are. We look to Jesus to see what it is to be fully human.
Yeah.
That ain't going to change.
And so, for people though who,
So in the end, I guess what I'm getting at, behind those questions I detect a doubt of the incarnation. Do you really believe that God became one of us?
Yep.
2,000 years ago in Nazareth, who founded the church, chose 12 apostles, like the 12 tribes of Israel, 12 apostles, and sent them out, and with the help of the Holy Spirit, who then had successors and, you know, passed it on. Do you believe that Jesus is the Son of God? Do you believe that the Holy Spirit is with the church? Or do you think, look, there was this guy, had a movement, it's moved on, you know, he preached peace and love.
Yep.
And all the scriptures, all the sources, all the things were corrupted. Because if you do, there's, in the end, I don't know, it's just do it yourself. You make it up. It can be whatever you like.
Yeah.
Because then whoever you're talking about is never going to be Jesus of Nazareth. It's a projection of your imagination. Whatever happens to be cool at the time, you know, 200 years ago, Jesus was a socialist fighting the French regime.
Yep.
Today, he's a greenie, you know, of universal, do what you like. 200 years from now, who knows? You know, maybe he was a badger. Like, you choose.
But where does it come from? What are people uncomfortable about within the church that make them come up with these kind of ideas? I'd like to say heresy, but I don't want to.
Well, you can say heresy if you want. If it's contrary to the faith of the church and it's deliberately chosen. I mean, there's material heresy and there's formal heresy.
But
and you've got to be careful how you define these things. And the church is always slow to always dialogue.
So to declare somebody a formal heresy.
Let's talk.
Yep.
What do you mean by that?
Yeah.
Well, actually, what I really meant was okay, fine. I mean, you've always got to be calm over course of time, and things go to the congregation for the doctrine of the faith, and then occasionally, very occasionally, they'll say, you know what, this guy, don't use his works.
Okay.
You know, or this guy, you're wrong, or whatever. You know, very occasionally.
You're out.
Yeah, but for the good of the others, and also for the good of that person to call them back, saying, look, you may be thinking this, but I'm telling you, that's not the faith of the church. Now, change your tune. And sometimes they do, you know. Sometimes they do change.
What's the worst?
What's the reason for it, though? Pride. I mean, you read St. Pius X, and when he talks about modernism, he said pride, which is the root of all sins.
Yes.
It's a particular kind of pride, I suppose.
Okay. In all your priesthood, what's the worst heresy that you've heard of? Or one that...
Well, modernism is a compendium of all the heresies.
Okay, modernism. Explain what's modernism.
Oh, Pius X goes into it a lot. But what it comes... There's a couple of ways of looking at this. I think one is to take as foundational my own experience of the Spirit. Now, I become my own pope, my own interpreter of all things. It's about how I felt.
Yep.
And then any of the dogmatic expressions, they're always secondary. They're always, well, that's a dead letter. As soon as you've put it in writing, it's already gone. Now, there's always, look, the thing about heresy, there's always a truth to it, right? I mean, that's what makes it attractive. And there is something about praying to God and something that's seen it just as a written letter, but is this alive? Does it mean something?
Yep.
But to take that as a philosophy and to say, well, look, what matters, what comes first is how the Spirit has touched me. And then these other things, well, they're quite secondary. And I understand, in pragmatic terms, the church has to make its proclamations, but what really matters is what I choose. And that could be, how the Spirit touches me could be quite different how the Spirit touches you. It's just, that's the cool and essential thing at the time. That's at the heart of modernism.
Okay.
Because and that's always changing, who knows what the Spirit's going to say to you next. But which Spirit is this?
Yeah.
It's not the Holy Spirit.
Okay.
It could be some other Spirit.
Does it live on?
Which Spirit?
That Spirit.
Well, it depends how possessed you are. I don't know.
You know what? That's some good insight. I think we should move on to your memes.
All right.
Please explain.
Oof.
Okay.
There's a thing called, the Catechism of the Catholic Church is it's explicit. It says, this is what we believe. Here it is, black and white.
Yep.
Some things are a little bit mysterious, a bit esoteric, a bit like, only the initiated, those inside know, and all that.
Yep.
So what I'm trying to do sometimes, one is I'm just having fun.
Yeah.
So I think you could just take that, I'm just being silly and I'm having fun. And I've had a hard day of bureaucry.
Yeah.
It's an outlet.
At the office?
Yeah, basically this is an outlet from bureaucracy.
It's like a drink.
It's so bureaucracy. So it's this, and then it's that, and it's this, and it's that, and you need some kind of an outlet, bit of imagination, whatever it is. So, one, it's fun.
Okay.
Two, what I'd like to do is make people think. So as a teaching philosophy, you always you're controversial. You what do you reckon? And you put it out there, and what do you say to that kind of thing? And then they because the worst thing for a teacher is when people go, yes. Have you understood? Yes.
Yeah.
Whatever you say. No. I'll argue the opposite just to G you up.
Just say something. Yeah. Give me something.
So what will happen is that you'll see the meme and you go, now, this could be complete nonsense. And if it's complete nonsense, great, I'll just move on.
Yep.
But if you see other people, ha 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 ha, they look at it and they're laughing. You go, wait a minute.
Why are they laughing?
Yeah. So it wasn't complete nonsense? You mean there's something in this that I should... Oh, wait, what is this? And then you're trying to figure it out. You're like, there's a game you can play when you go travelling. And I'll sort of give it away, but they play the game and they go, I think I'm going to go to, it's called, around the world. I'm going to play around the world. You're in the van, you drive along around the world. And you go, I think I'm going to go to Amsterdam. They go, oh, great. And the next person goes, I'm going to go to Russia. And go, oh, great. And then the next person goes, I'm not going to go to Canada. They go, nope, you can't go there. What do you mean I can't go? You can't go there. And the next person goes, I'm going to go to Ontario. And they go, oh, okay. So why did this guy get it right and I got it wrong?
Yeah, true.
It's because you're spelling out the words around the world, A-R-O-U-N-D. So each country follows each letter.
It out.
And then gradually, it's bit by bit, people they pick it. And then they're saying it. And then it makes it even worse for the ones who haven't got it yet. They go, what's right? Why did they get it? No, I didn't. And all that. So there's always a little bit of that.
I know exactly what you mean. And that's how you feel about them?
Well, no, but the memes that I put out. So what I want is that people. So what happens sometimes? It's a way of doing catechesis because there is generally a philosophical or theological point to it.
Yep.
And you're going, what? But then you'll go study. You might be so ticked off that you go, I'm going to Google this. Hang on, what's this about? And then you start studying. And then you might learn a thing or two of the Catechism.
And do people get it? Do they eventually get it?
Eventually they do? Sometimes. Some they never get. But
they
others,
never get.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
We're going to have to go through some.
All right.
So we're going to go through the first meme. So this is our session called Please Explain. Okay, and we're going to go with meme number 1. De viris illustribus.
De viris illustribus.
Illustribus. Sorry.
Illustribus.
Sorry, my pronunciation is usually okay.
That's okay.
I'm a tradie, so that's mea culpa. Okay, go.
All right, so September the 30th was the feast day of?
St. Jerome.
St. Jerome. Now look at his collar.
Okay, that's Jerome. He's the little alien man.
Yeah. So generally what happens is there are particular memes that are fresh.
Yes.
They're just recent.
Okay.
So it's about a combination of what's the saint of the day, what's the meme of the day, and putting the two together. So the Last Airbender and all the whole thing. Anyway, look, in these cases,
Yeah.
what you've got is someone who's looking at all the people who've come before him, right?
Yeah.
All his ancestors.
Ah.
Saint Jerome writes in the spirit of the letter to the Hebrews when it talks about our forefathers who suffered for the faith and all these things, and because Saint Jerome was well versed in the literary pursuits of the Latins and all the rest of it.
Yes.
At that time he's writing in the late 300s, etc. He writes about all these illustrious figures who've gone before, and it finishes up with himself.
Okay. Oh yeah, that's
he
right.
also
Yeah,
features.
Okay. Ah, interesting.
But so when you look it up and you go, oh, okay, so this is what's kind of you could learn a bit more about this work.
Okay, and this is the Airbender, the last Airbender.
I presume because I'm not always across the meaning of the meme itself, because I just know that meme's in circulation. See, what happens is I go to sites where they put the memes, and then I notice that certain memes are
and then you baptize them.
More or less.
There you go. Okay, perfect. All right.
So I'm not necessarily looking at the cartoon.
Yep.
So people often think, "Oh, Bishop, are you following this cartoon?" You go, actually, I'm not. I'm just seeing what's actually current.
And so, just for my sake and everyone else's sake, De viris illustribus means
of illustrious men.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Let's go to another one. Okay. Let's go to another one. Okay, that was a good one. Okay.
Do you want to look at all of them?
Is that?
Do you understand it though, or?
Quis ut Deus, who is like God?
Yeah.
Yeah. Fortitudo Dei, the strength of God.
That's right.
Celestis Medici. Heavenly medicine. Yeah. Okay. So, meme number 2. Okay, go for it.
Okay, so it's the Feast of the Archangels, 29th of September.
Okay.
So that's the previous day. Now, the thing here...
My feast day, Michael.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
The thing is, which angel to ask for intercession of the archangels?
Yes.
And you'll notice the quote that I've got there.
For which, the first?
The quote that I put underneath from the Summa.
Now, our knowledge of the angels is imperfect, as Dionysius says. Hence, we can only distinguish the angelic offices and orders in a general way, so as to place many angels in one order.
Yeah. So how am I going to tell which one's more powerful than the other one? Anyway, it's a bit obscure. But
that's pretty good. I actually like that.
Yeah.
That's good. And that's good. There's definitely a bit of catechesis there.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go to the third one. Okay. I want to go to one that's okay. All right. Now we'll do a couple more, okay?
Because that's all right.
I need to see these. All right, meme number 3.
Yeah, which is this one?
Okay, Elijah baked bread, the road to Horeb. Okay, what's that about? What's this one about?
So he's on the run. Okay, he's on the run.
Elijah.
Yeah, he's on the run.
From Jezebel. Yeah.
And he's got to get to Horeb, right?
Yeah.
Now the thing is, it's all too much.
Yeah.
Just let me die with my ancestors, I'm out of here. God takes care of him, come on, get him asleep.
Yeah.
He provides him with some drink, some food, some bread, rest.
Mm-hmm.
And on the strength of that bread, he's able to make it all the way to Horeb. Now that's a prefigurement of the Eucharist.
Absolutely.
And it's our daily communion that keeps us going. We not feel like much and think, oh, gee, life is so hard.
Yeah.
Why do I bother? But on the strength of the Eucharist, you can keep going. It's like in Lord of the Rings, they have the elven bread. But the guy's so you might feel like I'm a disaster. It's all no point, and I'm just beaten up. But with the Eucharist, I could even though I'm beating him up, I'm still going to get there.
I'm just laughing because that car is like thrashed. Yeah, I don't know how that car's driving, but you know what? That's actually really.
But it's going to get there.
That's very, very good. Okay, Yeah, you know what? Let's do this one as well, okay? Meme number 4. David dances around the Ark of the Covenant. Michal.
Yeah. So remember when they brought the ark in?
Yep.
And it was the presence of God. And so David, who was pretty swarthy and, he, even though he's like the king and all the rest of it, he shoves everything off and he does this dance around the ark.
Yeah.
But he's trying to give glory to God. And he doesn't even matter, it doesn't matter to him that he's somehow abasing himself. It's for the glory of God.
Yeah.
But his wife, one, because David's still a pretty good looking guy.
Yeah.
And, what are the girls doing looking at my husband sort of thing. But also, too, like, she's the queen sort of thing, the princess and all the rest. And why is my husband making such a fool of himself? I mean, what would society say about this? So she got really upset with David after this moment.
Yeah.
Now, Scripture says she was not blessed after that.
She copped it for that.
And David, unfortunately, in the Old Testament, you had many wives, and so
concubines,
many wives, and all the rest. It was Solomon's downfall.
Yes.
But it was more the attitude that she had. Like, I suppose you're saying my position in society matters more than
the joy that you get from being with
with God.
Yeah.
And so this is not it was trying to say, well, this is not a good thing. Whereas David he's okay, maybe I'm the king, maybe I'm the number one, but before God, what does it matter? Why shouldn't I rejoice in God?
Yeah.
So that's from the Old Testament.
Okay.
Book of Kings.
Just a question.
Yeah.
Was he naked when he danced around the ark? When he danced in front of the ark?
I can't answer that. Maybe he was scantily clad.
Okay.
Who knows?
Or maybe there was so much
look,
joy that his clothes came off.
I don't know why you'd say. Look, I mean, Peter was so excited. He wrapped himself around and jumped into the water to swim to shore. I don't know how they did these things. I've never really bothered to ask myself the question. So,
have we ever gotten dug up an archaeological pin? Safety pin, for example, that they used to...
I do subscribe to Biblical Archaeology magazine.
Okay. Have you found one?
Not. Look, I'll keep an eye out.
Keep an eye out for me, okay? Because just somehow some of these people, like Mark as well, when he runs in a garden, they all end up losing their clothes.
There may be something to that. I've never really... There's a PhD thesis in that somewhere, I think.
Yeah, there is, yeah. So anyone who's interested in doing a PhD, we want to know, where did those clothes go, and why was it very hard for the apostles?
I'm sure they got
to
dressed
keep their clothes
as soon as they could. They would have dressed straight up.
Very good.
Give me a cloak.
Very good.
Yep.
I guess that's why they. Yeah. Okay. All right. No problem. Okay. Let's go to one more. I'll get.
You kind of get this one.
I'll get that one. Yeah.
All right.
I'll get that one.
That's okay. Yep.
Okay. I don't do hospital visits. Yeah, okay. All right. Okay. Oh, okay. We might as well do this one because it's funny. Okay. Last meme for this week. Okay. Meme number 5. And we're going to go with this one. So, emergency meeting.
Yes.
Certain people from Judea, unless you are circumcised according to the custom taught by Moses, you cannot be saved. Antiochian Gentiles. Emergency meeting.
Okay, so everyone's playing Amongst Us as this new game.
Yeah.
I haven't played it yet. I haven't seen it, but there's a heap of memes coming out with that theme, right?
Yeah.
And but obviously, so in the Acts of the Apostles, I mean, that was the whole thing, right? Do we really have to live the Mosaic law?
Yeah.
Can't we just have faith in Jesus Christ?
Yeah.
Because most of the Jews there were circumcised when they were babies.
So they were cool.
Yeah, but as an adult, you'd really be wanting to know that, what's the deal here?
Yeah.
And that's why Paul and others were able to say, no, it's about faith in Jesus Christ. And Peter has those visions about all food is clean and those particular restrictions that now that with Jesus, it's not just for the Jews, it's about, for everybody. And those particular disciplines don't hold anymore.
And so after this emergency meeting was held, there was definitely a sigh of relief.
Yes,
amongst the
that's
Gentiles.
the Council of Jerusalem.
Yeah,
obviously, said, avoid fornication, strangled meat, because of the idols and things, and you'll do well.
Awesome. Bishop, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. We're definitely going to have to get you back on again.
No problems.
Guys, I hope you enjoyed that because I definitely did.
Very good. Great.
Any last remarks, last words, any advice to anyone watching before we sign off?
We're getting ready for. There's so much
Thought,
coming up.
Thoughts?
So much coming up.
Yeah,
November, month of the dead.
Month of the Dead, yes.
November, praying for the holy souls.
Absolutely. We're finding a location. The Knights are trying to find a church with a cemetery that we can organise All Souls Mass.
Great.
But we're tossing up between whether it's going to be a Latin Mass or a Maronite. Maronite Mass. So,
you know, I've been with Bishop Tarabai. Yeah. We've had these things where we call East meets West.
That's right.
And we have Western traditions.
Yep.
Holy, like with adoration, with Blessed Sacrament. Is
that a Western tradition, isn't it?
It is. It's Latin. It's a Latin tradition.
It is Latin.
But with Arabic hymns.
Okay.
Bit of Latin, bit of Arabic.
Nice.
So to try, we're try and do things. It's a bit of a fusion, but an interesting one.
He has a bit of height on him, and so do you. So in an arm wrestle, who wins?
Oh, definitely say Edna.
You think so?
Yeah.
You're not playing the humble card?
No. He's stronger than me. No doubt. He's got more Holy Spirit.
Well, maybe if we organise another Veracious episode, we might get him on, and we'll have a real East meets West.
Oh well, that could be interesting.
Yeah, all right.
Absolutely.
Okay. Once again, it was great having you on the show.
Thank you very much.
Okay, guys, thank you for joining us. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Tune in to Veracious Media. We have a YouTube channel. It's been another fantastic week on Couch Catechism. Keep the faith, stay strong, and we'll see you again next week.
Hi, I'm Father Daniel Russo, and I'm here with the team of Veracious Media. What's fantastic about this initiative is that it's an Australian-based catechetical resource. In other words, it's our Catholics right here at home who are teaching us about Jesus Christ in an uncompromised way. We're learning the fullness of the truth and nothing less. We're also supporting our local priests, nuns, and laymen and women, and empowering them to be educators in the faith, to be evangelizers. So by supporting this initiative, you're supporting the church in our country. So get on board and support Veracious Media.